Former President Donald Trump in Pennsylvania today for a rally. Many wait to see if he'll announce his VP pick before the Republican National Convention, set to kick off in just 2 days out in Milwaukee. Today's rally comes as calls from Democrats asking President Biden to step down grow. Now, if that's the way the country's feeling, well, the numbers really haven't caught up yet. Take a look at the polling numbers out in Pennsylvania. Biden is only about 4 percentage points behind Trump, but could today's rally push Donald Trump even further ahead in the key swing state? Well, turning now to NewsNation's Robert Sherman at that rally in western Pennsylvania. Robert, good to see you. What can we expect from the former president today?
Hey there, Jesse. Just a couple of days away from the RNC kicking off. You understand why the Keystone State is so critical to both of these campaigns and why so much interest is being paid here, as this is the state that both of these campaigns are really looking at, the one that could potentially shift the balance of power when it comes to getting to 270 electoral votes. The reason for that is that if former President Donald Trump takes back Arizona and Georgia, where his numbers are good, this proverbial blue wall that you have up here is so critical. Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. And you look at where the numbers stand in those races right now. It is neck and neck in Michigan. It is neck and neck in Wisconsin. But Pennsylvania, the one with maybe just a little bit of a lead for the former president, that is critical because the former president would only need to take one of these states in that scenario in order to get to the magic number of 270 electoral votes. But you see how important these three states are to both of these candidates. You had President Biden in Michigan yesterday as these calls continue to grow from some members within his own party. He's been putting the blinders on and saying he's not going anywhere. This is what he had to say in Detroit.
Folks, you probably noticed there's been a lot of speculation lately. What's Joe Biden going to do? Is he going to stay in the race? Is he going to drop out? Here's my answer. I am running, and we're going to win.
And the former president was asked about this, who he would potentially be facing in November. He said he's not really sure. He doesn't know what President Biden is going to do. But his team does still believe that they have the momentum, which is part of the reason they've been very quiet over the last couple of weeks ever since that debate. Jesse?
And let's talk about the former president in the week ahead, because the RNC is going to kick off in Milwaukee on Monday. And still, former president has not said who his VP pick will be. Any indication on when we'll know who it could be?
Certainly leaving the door open on many different directions here, Jesse. We've heard from the former president saying that he ideally would like to announce this vice president pick during the RNC. He's left the door open for pretty much any time from now until that big event in order to make that big announcement. And in terms of who it's going to be, he also says that there are a lot of options on the table and he hasn't necessarily made up his mind yet. Take a listen.
I watched Tim Scott on television yesterday. He was fierce and great. He was great. I watched Marco over the weekend on television. He was incredible. JD's been great. You have a man named Burgum, who's a fantastic governor in North Dakota. And, you know, it's a state that's very, very prosperous, very successful. And he's done a good job there. You have some terrific people.
There's obviously a lot of speculation as to who the former president is going to pick. But in our talks with the Trump campaign, they say there's really only one person who knows, and that's Mr. Trump himself. Jesse?
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.